to start in a restorative pose today. So if you have a couple of pillows or a nice thick blanket, or maybe you have a bolster at home, go ahead and grab something of the sorts. Maybe an extra blanket as well. And this is just one of the best, one of my favorite, what I consider one of the best restorative poses to start with. So you'll just have some kind of cushioning. I'm just going to call it bolster, but if you're using a blanket, just pretend I'm saying blanket. Just make some kind of shape here that can fit underneath your shoulders, underneath your back. I kind of like having an extra bit of height kind of up at the top for my head. So just go ahead and get organized with that. You'll want to grab your blocks, possibly, if you have them too. We'll bring those about halfway up the mat. Go ahead and sit pretty close to whatever you have behind you, your bolster. And we'll bring the soles of the feet together here and those blocks underneath your knees for extra support. And basically, we're just going to recline onto the bolster and just adjust if you want a little something under your head or neck. A pillow or a blanket can be really nice. And sometimes it takes a lot of adjusting, so just go ahead and continue adjusting until you feel as comfortable as you think you can. And even if you have super open hips and you don't need the blocks here, let's just at least have them on the lowest setting, at least, if not higher, so that your hips and like your groin area, just everything is supported. There's no fear of just fully releasing there. If it's uncomfortable to have the knees out wide, you could find a constructive rest pose, footing with your feet out by the edges of your mat and then your knees coming together. Or you could even just have your legs straight. So just continuing to get cozy. Hopefully you've grabbed a couple of your props and are settling in. I like to have my hands and my arms out to either side, but sometimes people like to have their elbows on the ground and then their hands kind of on their low rib cage or hip points or somewhere else. So figuring that one out for yourself. And noticing your shoulder blades and your collarbones here. Sometimes it's helpful to kind of tuck the shoulder blades in behind you so your chest is somewhat puffing up a little bit, and then settling the arms back into place. It might feel, well, I guess this is considered a heart opener. And you might feel just a little bit of opening or just a very small amount of stretch, hopefully through the chest. You don't want to go for a big stretch here, just kind of subtle. And there are 100 more ways to find variations here, so just keep adjusting, keep experimenting. And eventually, when you feel somewhat settled, go ahead and really let yourself be held by these props beneath you. Really just don't have to hold yourself up here now. Letting yourself be supported. And enjoying a few minutes here in this reclined bound angle pose or Supta Baddha Konasana. And we'll do a little check-in here first with the body. So scanning your awareness around your body, just looking for any interesting sensations. Checking in, seeing if there are any parts of your body that need a little extra care today. And then checking in with your mind. How is your mind today? How are the quality of your thoughts? Have you been kind and loving overall in your thoughts? Or maybe today's one of those days where you feel like kind of a bully. Just taking note of how things have been so far. And considering your spirit. So, body, mind, spirit. What does spirit mean to you? Is there a way that you can check in with your spirit? I'm leaving it open ended here so you can explore. How is your spirit? And then coming back to the body, let's notice the breath. Drawing the air down to the lowest parts of your lungs for some nice, slow belly breaths. Letting your belly expand with each inhale. And soften with each exhale. Breathing in and out of your nose if that's available. Softening your jaw. Letting your shoulders be a little heavier. And I have a little thing I want to read today. I'm not sure who this is by. It has no source, but here goes. That space is bad. This space is good. The ride is rough, for the going is smooth. We are thrown into suffering. We are thrown into joy. Beloved soulmate, find the space in the center, the pulsing spaciousness encompassing all opposites. Here, the essences of creation are at play. Earth, water, fire, air, and space, and the senses that perceive them. The center is the dancing ground. The center is the dancing ground. And as you continue to breathe and settle, if you want to set a dedication or intention for your practice today, now is a great time to consider that. Maybe calling to mind someone or something that you'd like to focus on or send your love or energy to. And let's take 3 rounds of clearing breath. Inhale through your nose, filling all the way up and pausing for a brief moment or two at the top. And then open mouth, sigh it out. 2 more like that, your own timing now. Eventually returning to a steady, sweet pace of breath as you begin to wiggle your fingers and toes. Maybe letting your head kind of rock from one side to the other. Nice and slow here. Remembering you're always welcome to stay longer if it just feels too sweet to leave yet. I totally understand. All right, and then let's start to circle through the wrists a little bit. Circling the wrists both directions. And lifting your arms up and moving the elbows a little bit. You could kind of circle them a little bit or bend and straighten or a little bit of both. Just getting those elbows moving a little bit. And then lifting those arms up even more, just getting some motion going through the shoulders. Freestyling here, maybe circling the arms a little bit both directions, or maybe giving yourself a little hug and then opening the shoulders and the arms out wide. Just freestyle with the intention of moving those shoulder joints. All right. If your knees are still out wide on your blocks, go ahead and give them a little help, bringing them up to the center. And then toe heel your feet out a little wider. And just find a little bit of a windshield wiper motion through the lower body. If you want to bring your hands back to the floor, cool. And just let your knees start to twist over toward one side. And then up and over to the other side, just like a windshield wiper motion here. At your own pace, moving those windshield wiper legs side to side. And seeing if you can create some nice senses of twisting through the lower part of the body. And then we'll start to come up to a seat. So tucking your chin in toward your chest, maybe coming up to your forearms or your elbows first, and just slowly coming on up. We will cross the legs if that feels comfortable for you, and right away we're going to take a little forward fold over your crossed legs. So this is kind of a counter pose to a forward fold, or sorry, the heart opener we started with, into a little forward fold. So just go ahead and let your spine round. Let your head and your neck kind of be loose here. You might even rock your right ear toward your right shoulder and then your left ear toward your left shoulder a couple times if you like. One more breath. Go ahead and walk your hands up so you're back up in a seat. We'll switch the cross of the legs, so whatever leg was in back now comes in front, and then another little forward fold over your crossed legs. Just easing forward. You can always have your hands up on blocks or your forearms up on blocks if you like. Just a nice easy forward fold. See about taking about 2 more nice full breaths. I really notice in a forward fold like this, with a nice breath in, sometimes it just creates so much nice space through the mid back, the upper back. Ooh, I even had a little crack of my back. Felt good. And then coming back up to a seat. We'll move your props aside for now. The bolster to the side, and you might sit with the soles of your feet together or cross-legged or whatever feels comfortable. You can even straighten your legs now if they feel like they've been crossed for too long. We're just going to tent those fingertips off to the side, sitting up nice and tall, maybe closing your eyes for a moment just so you can feel this sense of lengthening upward through the crown of your head. With an inhale, start to lift those arms around and up, nice and slow, just savoring all of the feelings up to the top. Hands join at the top, and then exhale, bring those hands to heart center with a little tuck of the chin. Reversing that, inhale, looking up, hands rise, and exhale, arms come around and down. Let's go ahead and do that again, inhaling as you rise, arms rise. And exhale as hands come to heart center. Inhaling, hands go high. And exhaling, hands come down by the sides. Let's keep the right hand on the floor. Now we'll take a little side bend toward the right so that left arm starts to reach up and over. We're thinking about side bending, but let's also think about lengthening or kind of reaching through the left side of your body, creating more space. Taking a couple breaths on this side. You can always come back up a little bit with the inhale and then exhale to sink back in. We're just staying on the right side for a couple of breaths. I think it feels nice to rise in between and bend, but you do you. And then when you're ready, let's switch sides. So eventually that left hand comes to the floor and that right arm starts to reach up and over. We'll have about 3 breaths here, maybe inhaling to rise a little bit. And then exhaling to side bend to the left. And whenever you feel that you've had enough side bending, let's come back to the center. And then exhale to bring those hands down. Let's come to hands and knees next for cat and cow. Always the option to bring some extra cushioning underneath your knees if you like. We will spread the fingertips out with the hands right below the shoulders, knees right below your hips. With your inhale, start to lower your belly, lift your tailbone, lift your gaze, cow pose. And exhale, rounding your spine up, tuck your chin, tuck your tailbone, pull your navel in so you're really like getting all the breath out of the lungs with that exhale. And now we're going, inhale, cow pose, gaze lifting. Exhale, cat pose, rounding on up. Keep it going now at your own pace. Your entire inhale brings you into cow, and your entire exhale transitioning to cat. See if you can find some kind of sense of how much you can move your spine. Sometimes there are areas of the spine we feel like we have no real mobility in. Sometimes parts can feel really mobile. So just see if you can sense into the different parts of your back and your spine as you continue to warm it up. And when you've had enough cat and cow, let's find our way to extended child's pose. Knees out wide, big toes touching. Go ahead and sink your seat toward your heels. If you still have your prop or bolster close by, you could take the option for a supported child's pose, just bringing some props underneath your chest or your head, and then maybe turning your head on one direction to start here. You can always try it out, and if it doesn't feel quite right, you can always change your mind. And we're finding more of those diaphragmatic breaths, letting the belly expand with your inhales. And soften with your exhales. Especially if you are supported by a bolster or props, just really kind of letting yourself sink in. And if your head was turned one direction on your bolster, go ahead and switch directions to even it out. And then rising back up to tabletop when you're ready. Slide that bolster off to the side. Let's find a downward dog here. So grabbing your blocks if you have them, we'll bring those up to the top of the mat for our hands to rest on. Curling your toes under. Start to pick up your knees, picking up your body here, reaching that tailbone high. Press your hands into the blocks, reach through your shoulders. Find your breath here. Make sure it's flowing. And then, if you like, maybe bending and straightening opposite knees. Maybe a couple times rising up to your tippy toes together. And then sinking your heels down. Getting a little bit of a stretch through those calves. And taking about 2 more breaths, finding a little bit of stillness. One more breath in. One more breath out. Inhale, bend your knees, look up toward your hands, and exhale, step or walk your way to the top of your mat. For ragdoll forward fold, having at least a little bend of your knees, if not a nice big bend of the knees, letting your upper body be nice and loose here. You can find some swaying movement if you like, or just some stillness. If it ever feels like too much to be upside down, you could maybe bring your hands up on those blocks on the highest setting and kind of come to a halfway lift position. You can still get kind of a little stretch going through the back of your legs, and a little bit of opening through your back. Or you could even come up a little higher in a classic halfway lift with your hands on your knees, shins, or thighs. And about one more breath here. I'll start to find a little squat. So for me, that means my feet want to toe heel way out wide, so my toes are off of the mat, my heels are on the mat. Yours might look a little different. Just go ahead and bend your knees a little bit. You could even bring your hands up to your knees and just kind of rest up in this kind of sumo squat position. This can be a really nice place to stay. So if it's feeling good, go ahead and stay. If you want to go a little deeper in your knees and all your other joints allow, you can come down to our Malasana yogi squat. You could sit on a couple of blocks or your bolster if that helps you feel more supported and stable. We're just going to be here for about 2 more breaths. Trying to puff that chest up a little bit. One more breath in and breath out. Okay, bring those hands down to your blocks or the floor. Go ahead and start to straighten those legs, kind of coming into a little forward fold. Bend your knees again a little bit, tuck your chin toward your chest, and then start to rise up. Slowly coming up to stand. And when you get to the top, just give it a little shake or a little bounce. Shaking out both legs at some point and both arms. Maybe shaking the shoulders a little bit. Maybe a little twist. Just getting some motion going throughout, so you're feeling your circulation really start to pick up a little bit. Okay. When you've had enough, come on up to the top of your mat. We'll start our little flow here. So find a solid footing for you, maybe feet about hip width distance apart or possibly a little closer. With your inhale, let's lift those arms up and overhead, joining palms up high. Exhale, swan dive, forward fold, arms reaching wide, hinging at your hips, and then releasing those hands toward the floor or blocks. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, hands come down to the floor or blocks. Let's step that right foot back first, and then your left to your high plank. Just for one breath in. And breath out, knees lower, move those blocks to the side, and chest lowers. Untuck your toes, press the tops of your feet down into the mat so much that your knees start popping up. You can feel your glutes working, you can feel your thighs working a little bit too. With your inhale, rise up, baby cobra, head and chest lifting, Option to hover your hands up off of the floor as well. And exhale, lower down. Inhale, rise up, baby cobra. Exhale, lower down. One last time, inhale, baby cobra. And exhale, lower. Resting here for a breath in and a breath out. Inhale, come on up to tabletop. Exhale to child's pose. 3 breaths here. Just about one more. And then using an inhale, start to rise up to tabletop. Grab those blocks if you want to use them again in your downward dog. And then with an exhale, transition to downward dog. We'll have 3 breaths here. Keep reaching through those shoulders. Inhale. Reach up through that tailbone. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Last breath in. Last breath out. With your inhale, option to lift that right foot up off of the floor, lifting it up behind you. Exhale, bend your right knee, hugging your right knee in toward your chest, step just the right foot forward. If it doesn't go too far, just give it a little help or kind of toe heel it up toward the top of your mat. We're going to find warrior 1. So the right toes stay forward. That left heel spins down just slightly, almost like your foot now is at a diagonal. With an inhale, rise on up. We're facing forward. Check in with the tilt of your pelvis here. Sometimes we start really back bending already. We don't want to do that. We kind of want to tuck the tailbone under. And that might mean you have to bend that back foot a little bit, or spin that foot, the toes out a little bit more. Okay, so we're inhaling, hands go high. And exhale, warrior 2. Arms go wide. We bring that left foot a little bit more parallel to the back of the mat. Arms reaching wide in either direction. Breathing in. Pick up all those toes, spread them out, and set them back down. With your inhale, let's reach both palms up toward the sky, straightening both legs. Fingertips touch overhead. And exhale, warrior 2. Rebending back into that right knee, gazing beyond the right middle finger. Let's do that 2 more times. Inhale, arms reach up, right leg straightens. Exhale, warrior 2. One more time. Inhale, reaching high. And exhale, warrior 2. Inhale, reverse warrior. Legs stay the same. Left hand slides down that left leg. Right arm reaches high. Find some more opening and length through that right side. Last breath in. Last breath out. Come on back up. We're going to find extended side angle next. So bringing a little bend to that right arm. We're going to place the right elbow on that right knee. And then left arm is reaching high overhead and a little forward with that palm facing the floor. Keep pressing into that right elbow so that you're not dumping into that right shoulder. You might even kind of lean back with that left shoulder here. One last breath in, building heat. And exhale, both hands come down to the blocks or the floor if you can reach. Spin on the left toe so all toes face the top of your mat. And with one big step or a series of small steps, we'll bring that left foot up to the top, forward fold. Keep breathing, we're gonna make it. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, reverse swan dive. Those arms go wide. We're hinging up through the hips. And then join hands overhead. Exhale, hands come down to heart center. Take a couple of moments here, cultivating that sense of centeredness. Maybe taking a sighing breath. Checking in with the heartbeat. Checking in with the temperature of your skin. Remembering your intention if you set one today. And as best as you can, trying just to really be right here in this moment. Trying not to think ahead or think behind, just being right here for another breath. And then let's take a clearing breath in through your nose and sigh it out. Inhale, both hands go high. Exhale, swan dive, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, hands come to the blocks or the floor. This time we step that left foot back first and then the right to your high plank. You can always lower your knees here if you want. Let's be here for 2 breaths. We're inhaling and exhaling. Inhale, press into those hands. Try to spread those shoulder blades out. And exhale, knees lower. Move those blocks to the side and chest lowers. Untuck your toes, press your feet into the floor a lot. This time we'll try a half locust pose, just with the upper body here. So let's straighten those arms down by the sides. With your inhale, starting to lift your head and chest and squeeze an imaginary beach ball behind your back so your palms are facing in, those shoulder blades are reaching down. Let's stay here for 3 breaths. Exhale. Don't be afraid of that wobble. If it comes, inhale. Exhale. One last breath in, squeeze that imaginary beach ball. And exhale, lower down. Bring your hands underneath your forehead for crocodile pose. Hands or fists stacking beneath the forehead. Rest that forehead on top. Letting your heels splay out to the sides. Maybe rocking the pelvis or the hips a little bit side to side to loosen up that low back. One more breath. Stay longer if you'd like. Otherwise, planting hands next to the chest. Press on up to tabletop. And with your next exhale, back to child's pose. 3 breaths here. One more breath or so. And then come back up to tabletop with an inhale. Getting those blocks back in place if you like to use them. And then eventually, when your next exhale comes, finding your way to our last downward dog of this practice. Big inhale when you arrive. And exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Last breath in. Last breath out. Inhale, option to lift that left foot up behind you, 3-legged down dog. And exhale, bend that left knee, hug it in towards your chest, and then step that left foot as far forward as it can. If it doesn't go that far, just toe heeling it up a little bit. You got it. And then spin that right heel down to the floor so your foot's kind of at an angle, so it's not quite parallel to the back of your mat, a little bit more of an angle. With an inhale, start to rise up, warrior one. Little bend through that left knee here. Big breath in and out. One more breath in. Exhale, warrior two. We open up wide, that right foot now just about parallel to the back of your mat. Sinking into that left knee a little bit more. Gaze past your left middle finger. Pick up all your toes, spread them out, and set them right back down. With your inhale, flip your palms, straighten that left leg, reach high, fingertips touch overhead. And exhale, warrior two. Bend back into that left knee, gaze beyond that left hand. Inhale, straighten, lift those arms. Exhale, warrior two. One last time, inhale, reaching high, legs straight. And exhale, warrior two. Inhale, reverse your warrior. Right hand slides down the back of that right leg, left arm reaches high. Exhale. One more breath in here. And exhale. Breathing like normal through this transition. Come back up through warrior two, right onto our extended side angle. So we're bending that left elbow and placing the left elbow or forearm kind of on that left thigh or knee. Reach your right arm up and overhead. Keep reaching it forward, your palm facing down in front of you, creating this nice open line, this nice big angle through that side. Keep pressing into your left shoulder, left elbow, so it stays lifted. One more breath in. And a breath out. Bring your hands down to your blocks or the floor. I like blocks on the highest setting. Pivot on that right foot so all toes face the top of your mat. And either with one nice big step or a couple of small steps, get that right foot up to the top of your mat, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, swan dive, rising up. Arms reaching wide, hinging upward through the hips, and then flipping palms and joining them overhead. Exhale, hands come right back to heart center. Taking a sigh if you want, anytime really. Pressing your thumbs into the center of your chest. Just take a few moments to be with your experience. Let's take a clearing breath now, inhaling through your nose. And sigh to release. Good. Go ahead and open your eyes if they were closed. Bring your hands down. Give it a little shake if you like. We'll prepare for some balancing. So if you like to come to support like the wall or maybe a harder surface if you're on carpet, just get to wherever you like to do some balancing. Today we're going to do our one-legged mountain pose to airplane pose a couple of times through. Highly recommend having a chair or a wall to hold on to in front of you if you like. So let's find a good footing here. We'll start by bringing all of the weight onto the left leg or the left foot. One-legged mountain pose, we're going to lift that right knee a little bit here. You could keep your toes down on the floor or flex that right ankle and then lift that right knee to about hip height. You can always switch it up anytime. We're just going to start by moving from this position. This is our one-legged mountain, back to airplane pose. So we're going to press that right foot back or drag your toe back on your mat. Hug those shoulder blades together behind you and maybe leaning forward a little bit or holding on to something. Find your airplane. Now at your own pace, I suggest going very slow. The slower you go, the better. Start to rise back up. lifting your right knee up. Now, if this feels really intense on that left hip, you can always set your foot down when you need to. Go ahead and do this a couple times. One-legged mountain to airplane. There are tons of variations you can try. You could reach the arms forward in your airplane. Just coming forward, one-legged mountain, and airplane a couple of times. And those toes could stay on the floor here the whole time if you want. Okay, this one's kind of a burner. So when you're feeling like you've had plenty, go ahead and set that right foot down. Shake out your left leg a little bit. Ooh, my left foot is really feeling that today. And then we're going to switch sides. So that right foot, all the weight centering over that right foot. Finding one-legged mountain pose with your left knee lifting this time. With an exhale, finding your way back to your airplane pose. Take your time, stay as long as you'd like. We're just playing with moving from airplane back up to one-legged mountain as many times as you choose to do that. And really, the slower you go, the more likely you're gonna make it. You want variations, maybe those arms reach forward. In airplane, you could bend and straighten into your standing leg if you really want to work hard. Although I think we're all working very hard already. Whenever you feel like you've had enough, just go ahead and step that left foot down. Shaking it out. Take your time as you finish that side. Give it all a nice little shake. Maybe a little willow tree. We can catch up together in willow tree. So feet kind of wide, arms twisting in each direction, letting those arms be nice and heavy, just like you've got willow tree branches for arms now, just whipping around in the wind. Let your hands kind of knock into your body, just a gentle knocking at either side. And then slowing it back down, coming to center. And let's take a little seat here. So however you like to get to the floor, we're heading there. And then we'll go right down to our backs. If you want, you can take your knees with you, holding onto your knees or shins as you roll on back. If you like to rock and roll up and down the spine a couple times, you certainly can do that now. Kind of is a nice massaging pressure, as long as you can round your back enough. Sometimes it doesn't feel great, so just choose your adventure there. And then settling on down with the head and shoulders resting on the ground, knees hugging in. Start to take little circles with those knees, letting your arms kind of straighten as you circle. So you're pulling them in and then letting them go a little farther away, creating nice little circles and getting some nice massaging pressure there at the low back and the sacrum. You can switch it up, taking circles in the other direction, or just starting to freestyle a little bit, rocking some weight side to side. Maybe the knees want to circle independently of each other. See what works. And we'll take a little twist here. So let's bring those feet down to the ground, arms reaching out wide in either direction. Pick up the pelvis, scoot on over toward that left edge of your mat. Set the hips down there, and then let your knees start twisting over toward the right. And checking in with that left shoulder, make sure it's still at least somewhat grounded there to the floor. If it's starting to pop up and follow you into your twist, it's possible you've gone just a little past your sweet spot. Maybe finding your bolster underneath your knees or between your knees, or coming out of that twist slightly so you can keep that left shoulder blade down on the ground. If you want to get fancy, we can try a little toe lock here. Well, it's kind of a big toe lock. We'll take the right peace fingers, the pointer and middle finger, reach down, see if you can grab the left big toe. For a lot of people, this might just be a nice place to stay. If you want to take it a little farther, we can start to straighten or almost straighten that left leg out toward the right side. Just make sure it feels good to you. If it doesn't, you can always revert back to any of the previous options. You could bend and straighten that knee a couple times or just hold it out. Just about one more breath in your twist. And then releasing that toe lock if you've had it. Bring those knees back up to center. Then we'll start to scoot way over toward that right edge of the mat, just the pelvis scooting toward the right edge of your mat. And then start letting your knees twist and lower to the left. And sometimes that second side can feel a little bit harder to get into just because we have twisted in the opposite direction just recently. So just ease into it. Check in with that right shoulder blade. Make sure it's on the floor. You can always grab that bolster or props to put underneath your knees or between your knees if that helps you have a better experience. If you didn't like that toe lock on the first side, you do not have to match on this side. But if you want to give it a try, sometimes one side is easier than the other. We'll find out. You can take those peace fingers of the left hand, reach down, see if you can grab your right big toe. Maybe staying there for a couple moments. This can be a nice outer hip stretch or kind of like in the glute a little bit. And only if it seems interesting, we can start to straighten or almost straighten that right leg off to the left side, finding your twist. Just about one or two more breaths here. And then eventually releasing that toe lock if you add that. Slowly start to bring your knees back up to center. Scoot the pelvis back to the middle of your mat. Then we'll find that little windshield wiper motion again. So knees just rocking to either side, twisting to either side, kind of evening things back out. And then if there are any last poses, movements, or stretches your body is wanting, go ahead and move in those ways. It doesn't even have to be yoga poses. It can just be whatever comes to mind. And then choose your own final rest pose. Could be in that reclined bound angle pose, like how we started, with something underneath the back, the shoulders. It could be legs up the wall, if you have a wall close by, or maybe legs up on a chair or couch with your knees bent. Choose your own adventure here. One of my favorites is to bring a bolster or props underneath the knees, just kind of a deluxe Shavasana position. So settling in or exploring until you find the option you'd like to rest in. And we'll take 3 rounds of Brahmari Pranayam or bumblebee breath, and then settle in to our kind of unstructured Shavasana meditation. I'll just mind the time and just let you have your own experience with very minimal guidance. So for our bumblebee breath, it's simply a nice breath in, and then with your exhale, you're just humming. You can hum one note, you could hum a variety of notes. We're just humming on the exhale. So it doesn't have to sound beautiful, just exhaling with a hum. So let's do that 3 times. Just go at your own pace, inhaling and then humming. Keep humming until that breath eventually runs out. This breath is kind of known for creating kind of a balancing or releasing type of effect. I find that it's really effective if you're feeling anxious or even angry. So go ahead, just take 3 rounds at your own pace. Just resting in the reverberations of that bumblebee breath here again. I'm minding the time. I'll call us back in a few minutes. And enjoy your rest. Check in and relax your facial features and jaw. Just about 5 more breaths. Nice and slow. Just about one more breath. Know that you're always welcome to stay and rest longer if you'd like. If you're ready to move along, let's start wiggling fingers and toes. Maybe letting your head rock from side to side as you open and close your jaw, swallow or yawn. Maybe reaching long for a long body stretch. Any other little movements as you reawaken. And then moving any props away as you start to roll onto either side, finding the fetal position. With your knees slightly bent and maybe your bottom arm as your pillow now. Take one full round of breath here, no rushing. And at the bottom of your exhale, start to make your way up to a seat using the help of your arms and hands to come on up. You might cross your legs, maybe keeping your eyes closed if you like, as you join your hands in front of heart center. You are welcome to join me in singing, chanting, humming, or just listening to our closing, which goes Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let's give it a go. Inhale through your nose to prepare. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, peace, peace, peace. Together, bringing thumbs up to third eye center, and in a little gesture of gratitude, if it feels right to you, let's take a little bow forward now. Peace.